Breaking. U.S. Forces cross into Iran. Carrier strike groups. Proxy warnings. And a region on the brink. The Waverhood point immediately family. This starts that she has 4 carrier strike groups. 347 combat aircraft. 35,000 sailors. And at exactly 2:17 a.m. local time, the most powerful military force ever assembled in the Persian Gulf crossed the line that hasn't been crossed in over 4 decades. American boots touched Iranian soil. Not advisors, not special operations, combat forces. And Iran's response came within minutes. This is an act of war, Tehran declared. Retaliation will be total. The Middle East just entered a new chapter, and the world is holding its breath. Let's rewind 96 hours. Because this didn't happen overnight. The buildup started when U.S. intelligence detected unusual movements across 3 Iranian military installations. Satellite imagery showed mobile ballistic missile launchers being repositioned. Not just any launchers, Shahab-3 variants, capable of reaching every American base within 1,200 miles. The assessment was clear. Iran was preparing something big. Washington's response was immediate. The USS Gerald R. Ford, already patrolling the Mediterranean, received orders to transit the Suez Canal at maximum speed. 100,000 tons of American firepower cutting through Egyptian waters at 30 knots. Behind it, the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. 2 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers moving in formation, something the Navy hasn't done in this region since Desert Storm. But that wasn't enough. The Pentagon activated the USS Theodore Roosevelt from the Indo-Pacific. A 3rd carrier. Then a 4th. The USS Harry S. Truman. 4 carrier strike groups converging on a single theater, each one carrying an air wing of 75 aircraft. F-35C Lightning II stealth fighters, FA-18EF Super Hornets, EA-18G Growler electronic warfare jets, E-2D Hawkeyes scanning the skies 300 miles in every direction. The message was clear. America wasn't bluffing. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell icon. We break down the most intense military operations on the planet. And this one's just getting started. Iran watched these movements. They understood the threat. But Tehran had been preparing for this scenario for decades. Their strategy relied on one principle: make any American attack so costly that Washington would never attempt it. They called it their Ring of Fire. Along the coast, Iran positioned over 200 anti-ship missile batteries. Chinese-made C-802s. Homegrown Nor variants. Russian Kh-35s purchased through back channels. Each one capable of striking ships 120 miles offshore. The math was simple. Even if American defenses intercepted 90%, some would get through. And it only takes one missile to mission kill a destroyer. Underground, the story got darker. Iran had spent 30 years building a tunnel network that rivaled anything in North Korea. Over 3,000 miles of hardened bunkers, buried production facilities, command centers hidden under 200 feet of rock. American bunker busters couldn't touch them. At least, that's what Iran believed. At 11:42 p.m., on the night before the incursion, Iranian Supreme Commander issued final orders to his forces. "The Americans will come," he reportedly said. "Let them come. They will find only graves." What's your read on this? Type A if you think Iran's defenses could hold. Type B if you believe American technology would overcome them. Drop your answer in the comments. The first wave came from the air, not from the carriers. from B-2 Spirit stealth bombers launched from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. 3 aircraft, 36-hour round trip, each one carrying 16 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, 30,000-pound bunker busters designed for exactly this mission. At 2:17 a.m. local time, they struck. The targets were Iran's underground command and control nodes, facilities that Tehran believed were invulnerable. The first bomb hit a mountain complex near Natanz. The explosion registered 4.3 on the Richter scale. Equipment buried under 80 feet of concrete was obliterated. Communications across the entire northern sector went dark instantly. But the B-2s were just the opening act. Within 90 seconds of the first bombs hitting, the Aegis destroyers in the Gulf unleashed a salvo that lit up the night sky. 127 Tomahawk cruise missiles launched in coordinated waves. Their targets were radar installations, air defense batteries, and surface-to-air missile sites along the coast. Iran's S-300 systems tried to respond. They detected incoming threats. They launched interceptors. But the Tomahawks came from multiple vectors simultaneously. Low altitude, high altitude, sea-skimming profiles, terrain-following paths through mountain valleys. The defenders couldn't track them all. Within 15 minutes, Iran lost 67% of its integrated air defense network. The ring of fire had holes torn through it. This is the kind of detailed tactical breakdown you won't find anywhere else. If you're learning something new, give this video a thumbs up. It helps the channel more than you know. Now came Phase 2. The carrier air wings. 122 aircraft launched from 4 decks in under 40 minutes. A ballet of controlled chaos. Steam catapults hurling 50,000-pound jets from 0 to 165 miles per hour in under 3 seconds. Night operations. Heavy seas. Pilots executing procedures they'd trained for their entire careers. The F-35Cs went in first. Their stealth profiles made them nearly invisible to whatever radar systems Iran still had operating. They cleared corridors for the Super Hornets following behind. The targets now expanded. Military airfields, tank formations, Revolutionary Guard command posts, fuel depots that fed Iran's war machine. Each strike package had been planned for weeks. Every pilot knew their target, their approach, their egress route. Iran tried to launch its air force in response. They had 340 aircraft on paper. Aging F-14 Tomcats purchased before the revolution. Russian MiG-29s. Domestic Kausar jets that were essentially reverse-engineered F-5s from the 1970s. It was a mismatch. The first Iranian fighter to get airborne was an F-14. It rose from Mehabad Air Base at 2:31 a.m. 14 seconds later, an AIM-120 AMRAAM from an FA-18E ended its flight. The pilot never saw the missile coming. Over the next 4 hours, Iran lost 47 aircraft. Some destroyed on the ground. Others shot down before they could engage. The American losses during this phase? 0. But this wasn't meant to be only an air campaign. At 4:45 a.m., Marine Corps expeditionary units began operations along the southern coast. Not a full-scale amphibious landing, targeted insertions, special operations forces securing beachheads, combat engineers clearing obstacles. The goal was establishing forward operating positions to support the next phase. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Navy responded with fast attack craft. Small boats loaded with rockets and anti-ship missiles. Swarm tactics. The same approach they'd practiced for decades. What they encountered was something new. The USS Zumwalt-class destroyers had been positioned specifically for this contingency. Their advanced gun systems could hit targets 80 miles away with precision-guided shells. and their radar systems could track hundreds of small contacts simultaneously. The swarm boats came in waves. The first wave lost 23 of 31 craft in under 4 minutes. The second wave turned back. The commanders had seen enough. What would you have done if you were commanding those fast boats? Would you press the attack or preserve your forces? Comment your thoughts below. By sunrise, the military situation was clear. American forces had achieved air supremacy. The coastal defenses were degraded. Forward positions were established. But the political situation was far more complex. Tehran's declaration of war triggered immediate responses across the region. In Iraq, Iran-backed militias launched rockets at American bases. 3 soldiers wounded at Al-Assad, 2 more at a facility in Erbil. The bases had been on high alert. Casualties were limited, but the message was received. In Yemen, Houthi forces announced solidarity with Iran. They fired 2 ballistic missiles towards Saudi oil facilities. Both were intercepted by Patriot batteries. But the threat was real. Hezbollah in Lebanon went to elevated alert status. 150,000 rockets pointed at Israel. The IDF mobilized reserve units. Tensions that had simmered for years suddenly reached boiling point. And in the Strait of Hormuz, the real danger emerged. Iran still controlled the northern shore of the world's most critical choke point. 21% of global petroleum passes through those narrow waters. If Iran closed the strait, the entire world economy would feel the impact. Oil prices spiked 34% within hours of the first strikes. Brent crude hit $142 per barrel. Energy markets went into panic mode. Calls flooded into Washington from allies and adversaries alike. Stop the escalation. Find an off-ramp. But the military momentum had its own logic. American ground forces pushed inland 12 miles from the coast. They encountered resistance. Iranian regular army units defending prepared positions. The fighting was intense. Different from the one-sided air campaign. On the ground, Iran's numerical advantage mattered more. They had 610,000 active duty personnel, millions more in reserve. They knew the terrain. They'd studied asymmetric warfare. They had no intention of fighting American tanks in open desert like Iraq had done. Instead, they fought in urban areas, in mountain passes, in the 1,000 villages that dotted the coastal region. Every building potentially contained defenders. Every road potentially had IEDs. The casualty reports started coming in. 14 Marines killed in an ambush near Bandar Abbas. 23 Army soldiers wounded when their convoy hit mines. A Black Hawk helicopter shot down by a shoulder-fired missile. The American public, watching coverage 24 hours a day, began to ask questions. What was the objective? How long would this last? Was there an exit strategy? Your engagement directly shapes what we cover on this channel. If you want more analysis like this, subscribe now and join the community. 72 hours into the operation, diplomatic channels activated. Switzerland, which represents American interests in Iran, passed messages. Oman offered mediation. China and Russia demanded an immediate ceasefire at the UN Security Council. The vote was vetoed, but the pressure was real. Behind closed doors, both sides were talking. Iran's position was simple. Complete American withdrawal, compensation for damages, security guarantees. America's position was equally clear. Dismantlement of the nuclear program, end to support for proxy groups, return of detained American citizens. Neither side could accept the other's terms. Not yet. The military pressure had to continue. On day 4, the situation evolved again. Iran launched its ballistic missile arsenal. not at American ships or bases, at economic targets. Saudi Aramco facilities, Kuwaiti oil terminals, Emirates ports. The message was clear. If Iran couldn't win militarily, they would make sure everyone lost economically. The missile defense systems performed. Most were intercepted, but 3 got through. A refinery in Saudi Arabia burned for 16 hours. 400,000 barrels per day of production capacity went offline. Meanwhile, cyber operations intensified. Iranian hackers targeted American financial systems. Banking networks experienced disruptions. Nothing catastrophic, but a reminder that this conflict extended beyond the battlefield. Was this escalation a strategic miscalculation or a necessary show of strength? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. By day 7, exhaustion was setting in. On both sides, Iran had lost 214 aircraft, 340 tanks, 67 ships and boats, and an estimated 4,800 military personnel. Their air defense network was down to 30% effectiveness. Their command and control was fragmented. America had lost 47 service members killed and 312 wounded. 3 aircraft shot down, 2 helicopters crashed. 1 destroyer damaged by a missile that penetrated its defenses. But the real losses was strategic. The operation had achieved its military objectives. Iran's nuclear facilities were destroyed. Their military capability was degraded. But the political objective remained elusive. Iran's government hadn't collapsed. Its population hadn't revolted. If anything, the attack had unified the country against a common enemy, and the regional consequences were spiraling. Oil prices stabilized at $128 per barrel, still 40% higher than before the crisis. Global shipping through the strait was suspended. Alternate routes added weeks to delivery times. The economic ripple effects would take months to fully measure. Day 10 brought a breakthrough. Both sides, exhausted and facing mounting costs, agreed to a framework. American forces would withdraw to defensive positions. Iran would accept international inspectors. A ceasefire would take effect at midnight. The announcement came simultaneously from Washington and Tehran. Neither side claimed victory. Neither admitted defeat. The conflict had lasted 240 hours. It had involved over 500 aircraft, 200 ships, and 250,000 military personnel from a dozen nations. It had cost an estimated $89 billion in direct military expenditure. The economic damage was still being calculated. This is the new reality of great power conflict in the 21st century. Technology can destroy, but technology cannot decide. Wars still end the way they always have. When both sides recognize that continued fighting costs more than compromise. When the calculus shifts from destruction to negotiation. The Persian Gulf is quiet now. But the carriers remain on station. The missiles remain in their silos. And the strategists on both sides are already studying the lessons. Because this chapter may be closed, but the story continues. If you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of viewer this channel is built for. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who needs to understand what modern warfare really looks like. We'll keep breaking down the conflicts that shape our world. The weapons, the tactics, the decisions that matter. Until next time, stay informed, stay vigilant, and never forget the price of freedom. Away for $10 also means what worry the worry is not an evet cat, is a start